Welcome to Jersey Matters. I'm Larry Mendte. Happy New Year. On this week's show, a warning from a state official about invasive species that could damage New Jersey crops and landscaping. We will talk to the chair of the Agricultural Committee in the New Jersey Assembly. Also on this week's show, voters in Atlantic City may get to decide if they want a mayor at all. We'll tell you where they are in the process. We'll take a look back at the most important political stories in New Jersey of 2019. And now, our interview with Monmouth County Assemblyman Eric Houghtaling, chair of the Agricultural Committee. Thank you so much for being here.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Talk about what are the invasive species that are coming to New Jersey right now?
Well, you know, invasive species is many things. It's the certain bugs that we're coming in here. We got the spotted lanternfly, which is a real problem for the state. We have eight counties that are quarantined. That means that anything coming in agriculturally has to be examined to make sure that we're not bringing in the egg sacs for the spotted lanternflies. And it also has to do with different type of nursery plants that are coming in here as well that have been a non-native species, but by the birds and the animals and all the spread the seeds around, that they are becoming a real problem we have in our state. So the big push now is to go back to native species plants.
This is by the way, a global problem. It's a worldwide problem. Everybody's trying to deal with invasive species, and it's happening more now than it ever was in the past because the world's becoming smaller because we can ship easier and travel's so common. But nobody's quite figured out how to stop the problem.
Well, we're taking steps. You know, they have lists of non-native species plants, but a lot of the plants that are on that list are very colorful in people's yards, and people say, oh, you know, we like those plants. We don't want to lose them. But there's strains of plants that they can make now that are sterile, that will not be invasive, and you know, the animals can't spread the seeds around, and you know, so that's the direction that we're going to be going into. And as far as the spotted lanternfly, that lives on the tree of heaven, which is from China. And the state of New Jersey has lots of these trees in our state.
What is the big problem with the spotted lanternfly right now?
Right now, we're trying to cultivate our wine industry and, you know, grapes and things like that. And actually, it destroys roots and the vines. And that's the thing that it goes after. And I've seen pictures of, because they swarm as well, of these flies all over a tree, and they're really bad at what they do, and they're very devastating, and we need to really get a hold of what's going on with that.
And they're not the only ones. I mean, there's several invasive species that are affecting agriculture in the state. How big is the problem? Is it like agricultural problem number one at this point?
Well, it's a problem. I mean, we have all kinds of problems in our state, but it's just one problem, and you know, our Department of Agriculture is really doing a good job trying to keep it in check, and we're working hard at it. The ash borer beetle is another terrible problem that we have in our state. They actually can wipe out an ash tree so quickly, and so there's a lot of little things that it can go on in our state that nobody is really aware of. But somebody's got to keep an eye on these things.
Yeah, and that's what your department's been doing. Your committee's been doing.
We're trying the best we can, along with all the other groups that we have in our state that really care about these things.
How is agriculture doing in New Jersey right now with the trade war with China? Is it affecting it?
I would say certainly it affects it a little bit, but you know, a lot of our stuff is local, and you know, in the summertime, a lot of the farmers have their own farm stands, and they try to, you know, avoid a lot of the stuff that goes on the outside.
So they're not affected so much by exports and imports?
They would be if they grow corn, if they grow in huge soybean crops or corn or things like that. Certainly, that would be affected if they export. But if they stay internal, which a lot of our stuff does, Jersey corn and tomatoes and things like that, they don't really get exported.
Now, according to the president, he's said several times that the farmers are being taken care of. Even though they might be hit by this at this point, we have been taking care of them by sending them some money.
I don't know. I've talked to a lot of farmers. It's not an easy industry they have. I mean, they're constantly, every year, they have a whole new set of challenges that they face. The weather. Are
they not getting reimbursed? I mean, that's what he...
Depending on what it is. I mean, I'm sure the vegetable farmer doesn't get reimbursed for stuff. Depending if they export their crops, basically. That's what I would say. But as far as domestically, if we keep our crops here, Jersey corn, I don't think that gets any extra money from the federal, especially from the federal government.
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm trying to figure out, like, we started the conversation by talking about invasive species, and I'm talking about the trade deficit as well, or the trade war as well. Are they the two biggest problems, or am I missing something when it comes to agriculture in the state?
You know, the biggest problem we have is every year when a farmer faces a whole new set of problems that he has. You know, with the weather, with the bugs, the fertilizer, you know, people are trying to tell a farmer what kind of insecticides that they can use. And it's a challenge to be a farmer in our state and to try to make ends meet. Because, you know, the weather, there's no guarantee with that weather. Too hot, too dry.
Which way are the numbers going? Is it growing as an industry?
We're doing good because the state is behind farming industry, and we want to make them be successful. So we are doing good. You know, I think eggplant. I think we lead the nation in eggplant production, and you know the oddest things like that. Yeah, so we do. We have a lot of niches, and you know we're doing really good as well with breweries, distilleries, wineries, and we're trying to grow all these things. And you know, one of the biggest things that's going to be coming along is hemp as a cash crop in the state of New Jersey, which will really bring a lot of people into this industry, because you don't really need to grow hemp on a field necessarily. You can grow it in a warehouse. So we have a lot of empty warehouses, and it could be a great way for younger people that want to get into farming, and it could give them a good venue.
Now, if marijuana is legalized in the referendum, does that come under your committee?
It could possibly be, but up to this point now, nothing has along those lines has come through our committee other than hemp.
Has that been talked about at all? I mean, I know there's been lots of legislation that's been bandied about. Has it been talked about at all, the limits on growing it?
Right now we have legalized medical marijuana, and all that is, they're not field crops. They're grown in a very controlled environment. And I think technically if we had legalized marijuana, it would be the same thing.
I know you were just, congratulations by the way, I know you're just appointed to a commission that oversees fisheries in not only New Jersey, but in several states. What are the regulations such that fishermen can still enjoy a healthy business, or do you put limits on it?
Well, that's why they have that commission, to make sure that all the stocks are you know, adequate, and that we're not losing, because you know you don't want to outfish or outsource, or make sure that you know you're not fishing anything to depletion, because that's not good. And you know you just can't have one good year, then the next 5 years will be bad. So that commission is really designed to make sure that we have adequate stocks for the commercial and recreational fishermen.
I won't ask too much about it because I know you were just named,
yeah.
But when you come back, we'll talk more about about fishing off the coast. Thank you so much. I really appreciate meeting you, and thanks for coming in. Assemblyman Eric Houghtaling from the 11th Legislative District, also chair of the Agricultural Committee. Still to come on Jersey Matters, the fight in Newark to keep housing affordable for everyone. That's when we come right back.